In the second half, you played so much better because your defensive line started to eat and get pressure on Carr, and because you started to run the football. Matt Patricia, why don't you understand what your team is? Why don't you get this, Matt Patricia? Can somebody on the staff sit him down and tell him your best player is Ramondre Stevenson, you joke of an offensive coordinator? What against the Bills, I tweeted this out, and I'll get to the defense in a second, but I just got to lose my mind about Patricia. Against the Bills, you called 13 runs. You incompetent joke. If you watch Saturday night, and Greg and I talked about this before the game, this is not hindsight. This is not Monday morning quarterbacking. The weakness of the Buffalo Bills defense is the front seven. They're soft against the run. You can get to those guys. And against Buffalo, you called 13 runs. Ramondre Stevenson had 10 carries against the Buffalo Bills in that Thursday night game. If you watch Saturday, Miami ran it down their throat over and over and over again. They averaged like 8 yards a carry. And then in this game, it's obvious that you could run at Vegas. Their front seven's not good. Max Crosby is fantastic. Chandler Jones, we said it last week, has been mostly MIA. Their linebackers are dudes they're just thrown out there on the field. They literally had a guy retire in the middle of the season. Run the football down the hill, and they don't do it in the first half. Is it any coincidence that the second half this offense was clicking? They're moving the ball. They looked a lot better. I wonder why. Because they were giving Ramondre Stevenson carries. They gave the ball to Pierre Strong. Matt Patricia doesn't get it. He hasn't gotten it since day one. Now, as far as
Nick,
the defense,
two other things real quick on that.
Sure.
Tyquan Thornton, who doesn't know where he's running half the time, is playing 90% of the snaps, and Kendrick Bourne, who the quarterback obviously really likes and has been here for a couple years, plays 11 snaps in the game. That's a joke, and you're exactly right. We talked about it coming in. The Raiders are terrible in the middle of the defense. Like this was a game where all you need to do is roll out the Bailey Zappi Cleveland Browns playbook. Like, you can run every down and then run play action after, setting up the run action, and then you'll have a guy wide, naked, open. Did they ever do that in this game? No, not even close. Why? Because the offensive coordinator is incompetent.
Stinks out loud. And we'll get to Belichick and the stuff and the decisions he might make in this offseason, and I think he better make this offseason. But it's a joke. Look, I'm not telling you I know everything about football. Clearly I don't. Bill Belichick has been coaching the game for 175 years. I get it. But when Greg and I can come onto this podcast and we can tell you, Greg watching the film, I have watched every single Raiders game this season painfully. When we come onto this podcast and we say, this defense is weak in the front seven, you can run the football against them. And then you see your offensive coordinator go out there and do the exact opposite. I don't know if they're overthinking it or he just doesn't get it on the fundamental level. Like, it is so ridiculous what they're doing week after week after week. It's like, is anybody on this coaching staff watching the film and saying, hey, they can't stop the run. They're not very good against the run. Hey, I think we can go downhill with Ramondre and give him 20 to 25 carries. And if Ramondre can't have 20 to 25 carries because he's dinged up, then, and he didn't look too dinged up to me the way he played, but if that is the case, Pierre Strong has looked pretty good. Kevin Harris actually looked pretty good the last few carries he's had.
Yep.
So what the hell are we doing? Oh, and by the way, I don't want to curse. Greg tells me not to curse on this podcast. The goal line stretch you saw, fire it into the sun. That was the most embarrassing set of circumstances that I have witnessed. Matt Patricia, you have Ramondre Stevenson. You are about a yard away from a touchdown. It's 4 down territory. Give the ball to your best offensive player. Don't overthink it. Ramondre Stevenson should have been given 3 carries in a row and just bludgeon him up the middle. The Raiders aren't stopping him 3 times in a row. with Stevenson. Run the damn ball. It's not rocket science. No pun intended with Patricia, who's apparently a genius with everything but offense and being a head coach. Like, what the hell are we doing? Ramondre Stevenson's your best player on the team offensively, and you're on the 1 yard line, and you give the dude the football once. Well, let's talk about
Nick,
the quarterback.
Remember how Bill said earlier in the year, like, asked about offensive changes, like, it's not like we're going to run the wishbone or something. The Patriots literally could have run the wishbone in this game and never passed. They could have been like Oklahoma, Barry Switzer's Oklahoma team or something, and they literally would have won this game going away. But especially on the goal line. You're right. They just could have kept inching the ball forward, and they would have scored. But
just run the Mac QB sneak. That worked. Seriously. If Jonu Smith was set. Like, it just, oh my God, it's not tough. It's Matt Patricia. It's not that tough. There's a lot of tough things about coaching football. When you're on the goal line, when you're on the 1 yard line against a defense that can't stop the run, and you literally have one of the best running backs in all of football, and you give it to him once. This is not tough. This is like, it's Madden 06 to me. Like, this stuff is like, these are things that when you're 15, 16 years old. I guarantee you there was a 15-year-old Patriots fan watching this game screaming at the TV going, give the ball to Ramondre Stevenson. Okay.